Hey everyone! So for today's video, I thought I would take you around and show you how I water my garden in the winter, or at least how I check to see if any of my plants need to be watered. Also, I'm rocking my new Proven Winners hat that we got from the Creators Roundtable, and I was thinking today, off topic, how I love wearing my sun hats, but I feel like I can't wear them in the winter, even though they still do the same function of getting the sun out of your eyes. I don't know. Let me know if you wear your sun and gardening hats in the winter when you're in the garden or not. But anyway, what we are going to do today is I'm going to show you how I've kind of been maintaining my plants throughout the winter. I think this is my third year now attempting to keep plants alive on my decks during the winter. They don't all live, but I have learned some things from the last 2 years about what to do, what works and what doesn't. So the first thing is I schedule when to check my plants. So I have actually 2 different reminders just in Google Calendar. One, I have bi-weekly for everything that is covered. So essentially I think that's only right now the plants in my greenhouse and the ones in the garage, because since those aren't exposed to the elements, they're not getting the rain when it rains, they're not getting the snow when it snows, so they're not getting any moisture on their own. I'm going to be supplying all of their water for this season. I might do something though that I did last year, which I'll show you when we get snow. I do use that to water my plants and for some insulation for the pots, but we haven't had a snow yet. It's also been warmer than average, I'd say, so far, going into, we're still technically in fall, but getting closer and closer to winter. It's been warmer than it has been. We had like a few flurries of snow, but nothing that stuck. We've been kind of in the 40s, but now starting to drop into the 30s. So I feel like my plants have needed water longer into the season than they normally do, or longer going into winter than they normally do. Anyway, so I have my bi-weekly reminder for everything that's covered. And then all the plants that are just kind of out in the open, I have a monthly reminder for that. So on the month, when I check my outside plants, I also check the plants that are covered, and then in between that, I only check the plants that are covered. I feel like watering your plants in the wintertime is something that you can very easily forget about, so that is why I like to add a reminder in my calendar, because it tells me I need to go check my plants. Because if you don't have them exposed to the elements, or maybe you have them exposed but you don't get a lot of moisture during the winter, your plants can very easily dry out and die in containers. So that is why it is important to check them throughout the winter, just to make sure if they do need any moisture, you're there to add it. So right now we are on the back deck, and I have here a raspberry bush and then everything else that is in the greenhouse. I also have a couple new plants that I need to put inside the greenhouse. So let me show you around the back deck and we'll check if anything needs watered right now. So here is a sweep of kind of what the back deck is looking like right now. The greenhouse is behind this couch, which, yes, that means I do have to move it every time I go into the greenhouse, but that's fine. I have these 3 plants to put into the greenhouse because I want them to have a little extra protection. I think I showed this already, but this is just a mini little rose bush called Cutie Pie that I just got. And then these are 2 tater tot bushes that I got from Proven Winners that I'm gonna plan to pot up in the spring. So for now, I'm just gonna keep them in the greenhouse. And because these are in smaller pots, these have been out so they're moist from the rain, but because they are in smaller pots, that's why I wanna make sure I'm checking these regularly, because I have a few that are in like smaller sized containers. So that's what's over there. And then over here, the only plant that's uncovered is this raspberry bush, still holding on to some of its leaves. That's another thing. The plants have really held on to their leaves much longer. But let's say it hadn't rained or snowed in a while and I wasn't sure. Now, remembering that this is a pokey plant, I just kind of stick my fingers in the soil, and it's wet immediately when I touch it. So you do not need any water. Oh, I also wanted to show that I did end up getting outdoor faucet covers just to be a little extra safe. So they just kind of slide on and then wrap around and Velcro into place. So I'm hoping for a little extra protection on those this winter. So I haven't had too many issues with my faucet to know if it necessarily has to be covered, but last year there were some pieces inside of the faucet that needed to be replaced. Now I think that has more to do with the age, because I think they were 20+ years old, than like with the cold. But just for, a little bit of extra support to get them through the winter, I went ahead and got those, and I think they were like $5 for the pack, $10 for the pack, 5 each. but not that expensive, again, to give it just some more protection. So now I need to move this couch, open up the greenhouse, get these in the greenhouse, and check to see what needs to be watered. I check first before filling up a water can, just in case they don't need any water. I don't want to go through filling up the watering can if they're not even going to need it. So I think even just looking at them, I can tell they don't need water yet because the soil is pretty dark, like the color it is when it's moist versus dry. Now what's in here, so this and this, and this grow bag are all empty. So I don't need to water those at all. They're just in there for insulation for the pots. But if I come in here, I mean, yeah, that's all. That's all still very moist. There's actually, I don't know if you can kind of see some condensation on there. So moist, moist. The tulips, which are in these pots, I don't think I'm going to add water at all because, again, last year I lost them to too much moisture, and I'm pretty sure Klaus Dalby doesn't water his throughout the season. Like, he waters them once when he plants them and that's it. So if Klaus Dalby does it, I'll do it. So I don't think I'm planning to water any of these pots, but let me know if that is incorrect. And then we have the blueberry plant, which still has its leaves. Same thing with the rose. And the dahlia is still good. So yeah, I mean, everything in here is still good on water. So now I just need to add these in here somewhere. Will you fit there? I think I'll make you fit there. Okay, I was able to move some of these pots apart, so now that is in the middle, and I feel like that's a little bit better in terms of insulation for that rose bush. And then the tater tots I put just actually sitting on the grow bag with the dahlia tuber because that is the warmest place back there and they are in the smallest container. So that is where those will go. But right now, nothing here needs to be watered. I'm actually going to leave the doors on the greenhouse open for a little bit right now just to get them a little bit of fresh air. I'll cover them up later. I probably won't do that obviously once it gets super cold, but since it's still not freezing, I think we're high 30s, low 40s right now, so it's actually not that bad to be outside. I know some of you in warmer climates are going to not agree with me when I say that, but it actually feels pretty nice right now, all things considering. So yeah, I'm going to let them get some air. Now let's head back to the front deck where everything is uncovered, so I don't think I'm going to have to water, but at least show you how everything is looking. Coming out to the front deck, still have some pansies looking okay. Now I'm not sure if I showed you what I ended up doing with the cart, but basically we just draped a large tarp over it and then bungee corded it in place, and that's held up pretty well so far. I had thought about like maybe moving it inside. I wasn't sure, but I think this is much better out here. So then here are all of these plants back here, and I mean, yeah, I can tell. Let's move this garbage can. I can tell again just looking at the soil, everything here is very, very damp, as I just stab myself in the roses just to, you know, double check. So all of those are damp and good to go. And then these two blueberries, obviously they're still damp enough, waiting for that one to lose its leaves. Surprised it's held on to them for this long, but I'm still trying to figure out what I can do around for some extra insulation there. Someone mentioned getting a dolly, which I think would be fantastic to actually be able to move them, but I don't think that's going to happen this year, so I don't know. I want to find something to at least put around. Do I have burlap? I might see if I have some burlap, some sort of insulation for these. So nothing up here actually needs to be watered, which is nice. I mean, obviously for the video, it might be a bit more exciting if I actually had to water something, but right now everything is good. So in 2 weeks, again, I will check the greenhouse. Now, obviously the hose faucets are turned off, so I can't use a hose to water, which means I will be using a watering can, or I also have a bucket, and I think the bucket's larger. I fill those up in the bathtub because I can't actually fit them underneath the sink faucet, so I have to go down, carry those up. It's just down one flight of stairs, so not that bad, and that's what I think I'm gonna water with. I haven't had to water yet. This is technically my first scheduled check of all of the plants for the winter. So now I'm gonna go down to the garage where I have 5, I think, dahlia bags, and then 2 of the mini hydrangeas down there as well, and those might actually need some water, but we won't know until we check. So I'm in the garage and realizing you can't see anything. It's super dark even with the light on, but all of these, I felt all the bags of the dahlias, these are good. Let's see if you can maybe see this in the light. So this is one of the 2 mini hydrangeas I have, and yeah, this is still moist as well, so nothing here to water either. So I'm back upstairs now, and that is going to be, I think, everything for this video. Wasn't very eventful, but I hope that at least it's helpful to kind of give you an idea of how to check on your plants throughout the winter, especially in a container garden when they're not, in the soil, able to get moisture that way. Again, in my area, we get a lot of rain and snow through the winter, so I'm more worried about the plants that are exposed, either being impacted by the cold weather or getting too much moisture rather than too little. That's the only way I lost plants last year, was because they had too much water. It wasn't that they didn't get enough, but not watering your plants can kill them. So that's why the greenhouse, I'm obviously gonna have to water throughout the winter, and then the garage obviously as well, just to make sure that those stay nice and healthy and get back out into the garden next year. Let me know if you do anything, kind of how you go about checking your plants throughout the winter, especially if you have a lot of things in containers. If there's anything else I should be doing, or any other tips that you have. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.